Advised.
Greetings. Welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have two lionesses over here and they look like they want to hunt. Welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African wilderness. Good afternoon and welcome to the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have lionesses that are looking very, very lazy here. My name is Tim and behind camera we have Big James. It's nice weather over here, 29 degrees Celsius. I think that it's warming up about 84 degrees Fahrenheit. This is super cool seeing these lions out here. See, one is facing us and the other one is facing the other direction. Seems like these guys had tried out to hunt but missed out. I would say that was a failed attempt. But they look at how they are resting right now up on that termite mound. And then the way that lioness to the right is a little bit panting. Now see the way she's scanning. She seems like she's finding game. And as soon as they locate prey, they'll start heading off that direction. These are from the Ololo Pride. We are almost at the core of the Ololo Pride area. So we had lots of wildebeest and zebras just below the escarpment, and I'm sure they might head that direction. Seems like she's super tired out in the sun. It's a long ways for a place to rest, maybe for cover and shade. So sometimes when the lions fail their attempt, they'll rest anywhere just to rest until they make their next move. Now when the game is not here, Rosalind, thank you so much for your question. I reckon they can see up to about 6 kilometers far and wide, because we can't really see over 6 kilometers. Can you imagine? These guys have a very, very sharp eye, and even at night they can see 6 times better than us humans. So they can see up to 6 or even more, depending on how flat the cover is. She keeps on looking. You can tell they're super, super hungry by the way they're looking out. I think 3 days ago these lionesses missed out on a warthog. So again, they might try out tonight. It's a long way for game, and when there's no game around here, so these lions specialize in taking down warthogs. So you can imagine, for a big pride, how many warthogs do they have to kill? And sometimes when they kill the warthogs, they end up not having something to eat. So I'm going to hang around here while we take you over to another safari vehicle.
We've got a couple of animals, some big elephant bulls that are not looking for any warthogs to eat. They are having a bit of a play. At the moment ago, they were actually both pushing on opposite sides of a large knobthorn tree just next to them, which was really strange. I wondered if they were just doing a bit of a tug of war. But for now, they seem to be calming down, maybe having a bit of a fight with each other. Hi, I'm Mike. Behind the camera is Seb, and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy. As you know, we've been away for a couple of days. It's been crazy wet weather here, but it's drying up a little bit. It's still very cloudy, but it seems like it's starting to settle just enough for us to be able to come on a safari again. Thank goodness. And we've obviously found elephants, because that's basically everywhere on Pridelands. And that's so nice to see these 2 large elephant bulls. Fairly big, not as big as some that we've seen, but fairly big. Oh, that one doesn't look like it's in a very comfortable spot. You're backed up against the wall, or the tree, so to speak. So this is 2 elephant bulls just having a bit of play fighting. It doesn't look too serious. They were for a long time socializing, and I think they just decided to have a little bit of a sparring session. Doesn't look like they're expending a heap of energy. But then again, these animals are huge, weighing many, many tons. So even just, wow, that looks very uncomfortable. Look how their necks are craned up like that. Ah, you know what? Thanks, everyone. We're happy to be back. It was so weird to be off drive for 2 days. You know, we were every day trying to get out there, but just the weather wasn't playing nice with us. This is the bush, and it is live, so you never know what's going to happen. And of course, what happened to us was getting drenched every day. These elephants are not bothered about the rain whatsoever. It's actually quite good for them. It's been very hot before this cold front came along, and their massive bodies, you know, once they get hot, it's very difficult to cool down. Likewise, once they're warm inside, it takes a long time for them to get cold. So they are not bothered at all by this little bit of cold weather we're having. In fact, it's making it a lot easier for them. They don't have to come into our eco-training camp every day and break down trees and branches, because it's starting to green up in the bush. Maybe a bit later we'll show you some green grass that's starting to grow even in just the 2 days since we had a little bit of rain. It's quite spectacular to see how quickly it's growing. Cargo, elephant fights are not often fatal, but they can be, especially when there is a real scarcity or lack of resources, whether those resources are females or whether it's water or food. They can get into fights about such things, especially with females if there's two very large males. And it's not often that they're fatal, but they certainly can be. I can't remember what book I was reading. I was reading a book recently about elephants, of course, and this apparently two elephants had a bit of a fight, or I don't know what happened, but one was lying down. It was maybe injured or whatever, and the other elephant actually finished it off, which was quite brutal. But I guess it does happen occasionally. You know, with anything, competition is rife out in the bush. It's not like us where we can just go to a supermarket to get food, or swipe left on Tinder or whatever you do these days. But out there in the bush, you really got to fight for everything that you want. And these two are practicing. So this is what they're doing now. It's not a serious fight. As you can see, they push and they shove and then they turn away, and it's not really a serious fight. They're practicing. But at some point in their life, they will have a serious fight with someone or something. Often they get into conflict with other animals, where it's buffalo or rhinos at waterholes, especially in the very driest areas in the dry season, when there's not much water around. If a rhino tries to stay by a waterhole, elephants are much larger and they will chase them away. And there's many, many records of elephants killing other animals to get to the water or to keep the water safe from them. It's also why we have to be very, very aware in our camp, because the elephants often come through the camp to get to Antelope Dam and also to feed on some of the green vegetation around the camp. The camp is situated underneath some beautiful, huge weeping boer beans, which are flourishing at this time of year with both flowers and leaves, and the elephants have been feeding on them quite a lot. So we have to respect the fact that they are much more powerful than us individually, so we tend to keep out of their way. I didn't quite catch the name, but the question is about lions, about elephants killing lions. How often does that happen? And that doesn't happen often at all. Kinshiro, elephants don't kill lions often because there's not really much to fear from lions. But if elephant herds do have youngsters, they will chase the lions. In fact, they'll almost always chase lions if they find them. But lions are very fast and very agile, and it's very rare for a lion to be killed by an elephant. I don't know if I've ever seen it or heard of it, but I'm sure it has happened before. Maybe an injured lion that couldn't get away or was trapped, or anything really. A lot of things can happen, but it doesn't happen too often. Remember, those two animals live vastly different lifestyles and life habits, and they also don't feed. Lions don't really hunt elephants often, so there's no real reason for an elephant to be worried about a lion. I suppose it does happen. Nothing likes predators about if it's a herbivore. And elephants are about the only animal that really, and buffaloes and rhinos, I suppose, that really can defend themselves from those large predators. That would be quite something to see, right? Elephants, having a showdown with some lions. I've seen lions lions don't tend to be afraid of much, but whenever there's an elephant walking down a pathway, male lions are the scaredy cats of all of them. They'll run way before the females do. Anyway, super cool to see these elephants. What we're going to do next is maybe head over to the hyena den.
Jumbo. A very good afternoon, everyone. And we are here at the marsh, and we have found the Olololo 4 that are very far away from the rest of the pride. Looks like they've been feeding really well. They're scattered amongst these small bushes. It would be hard if it wasn't for this great zoom that we have. See, there's a female there, and she looks like she's trying and struggling to breathe because it has been a very, very hot day. Yes, a very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have Big James. Our mission today is to stick at the marsh and see if we can find, all the lions. Plus, we'll take a look around the forest, see if we can find Romy for you guys. But already I came across these Olololo 4. 2 years ago when I saw them, they were very dependent on the rest of the pride. but now they have become masters of killing buffalo. In the last 1 month, we have seen about 4 kills differently, not by eye only. David, Tim, and I haven't witnessed one, happening yet, but they have made kills. They have killing buffalo. So I don't know if this means that they are becoming masters of killing buffalo. It will be great because it means they have good survival, because buffaloes are always in plenty along the marsh. Remember to talk to us on #WildEarth. Questions and comments are very, very welcome. Look how fast she is panting. Reason, you've heard it again, but I have to tell you, they have no sweat glands on the skin, so they lose all excess heat through the mouth. Pardon me, this is a male. I think they swapped positions while I was driving to get here. There was a female there earlier. This is a young male. Yes, you can tell that they have a very scruffy mane. Doesn't mean that it won't grow. Maybe in the next 2 years, it will become much thicker because they need it to cushion their necks and heads when fighting. I will reposition, and while I do that, let's find out what the exciting afternoon has to offer.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are live at and beyond Igala, and we've just managed to find this elephant who's quite far in the distance, but Owen and I were very impressed by the size of his tusks. And so we thought we would stick it out and just let you see it for yourselves, and just look at how beautiful those tusks are, and they point almost straight out in front of him. And after these rains, they're very clean, so that white really stands out a lot more than the rest of his body does at this distance. And my name is Eric, and I'm behind the steering wheel today, and behind the camera is Owen. And we are here exploring the southern part of the reserve, and we are on the lookout for the pride of lions that we see quite often. They were seen quite far south of the reserve a couple of days ago, and so we're just checking to see if maybe they haven't made their way up north into the territory that they usually hang around in. So this isn't the only elephant bull that we've seen this afternoon. He is by far the biggest one we've seen, though. So he's got a little entourage of I think, about 3 or 4 other elephant bulls that are following him around. But they are spread out all over the place. So they're happy to be in this area. They're slowly feeding. And like I said yesterday, just quite like those leopards where they don't have to travel very far anymore to find water because of all of the water on the ground. And so they're not in any rush. Oh, he's facing us now. Look at those tusks. Just look at the size of his head, the width of the trunk in between his tusks. He is such a big boy. And very, very deep indentations on his head, so he does look very old. Like, Callum, you must have been reading my mind, because I was trying to work it out. And looking at tusks like this isn't really the most accurate way to age an elephant. And so we need to look at a few things. And I just pointed out those deep indentations. So directly above his eye, where his temple is, there's 2 very deep indentations. I mean, his tusks are very, very thick. He's got a very large head. And so, I mean, elephants and males will live until about 55, 60, maybe even 65 years old. And I would put him up high up there. So maybe in the high 40s, maybe even into his early 50s. It's one thing that I'm not particularly good at is aging elephants, but there's a beautiful museum in the Kruger National Park at the rest camp of Letaba where they display some of the biggest elephants that have been found within the 1900s. And the majority of those elephants were estimated to be in between 50 and 60 years old when they died. And so he must be getting there. So probably high 40s, low 50s. Callum, I think, would be a good guess. It's a beautiful day. I mean, it's very overcast, but the clouds are high, so it doesn't seem like there's any chance of rain like we've been having in the last couple of days. And there's almost no wind, so it's feeling very hot and humid. And so these lions that we're looking for, I think, if it was 2 days ago, there would have been a chance that they might have been moving around at this time. But because it's so hot and there's almost no wind, they'll probably still be resting. So we'll be checking 1 or 2 water holes that are in this area, see if they wouldn't go past to have something to drink. Maybe they're just resting in some shade. So we'll be keeping a close eye for any signs of them in the next few minutes. I wish him luck when he's trying to find some lions. Well, we're sitting here with lions that look like they're tired. The lioness to the right looks like she's just eyeing something, but not quite sure if she will make a move or not. Seems so tired, but I'm sure after she is rested, she will definitely go somewhere. Now, when cats fail an attempt, they will take time to rest before they regain energy and head to hunt. Let's say, for example, these lions get successful from the hunt. So normally they will drink the blood to regain more energy as soon as they get whatever prey they get a hold on. It seems like that one is fast asleep. Look at how she's panting heavily. Ajay, thank you so much for your question. How often do lions hunt elephants? Here in the Mara, we don't often see lions hunting elephants. So our lions here in East Africa, in Masai Mara, extending all the way down to Serengeti, they don't go for elephants. But I'll tell you, there's a park in Tanzania called Ruaha, where I happen to have worked for some few years. The lions there had specialized in taking down elephants, younger elephants, and even big giraffes. So here, because it's abundance in prey, we have lots of other prey. So we don't often see lions going after elephants. So elephants here are not preyed by lions. But I would say in other places you find, like there's a park in Zimbabwe, I can't really remember the name, but we have lions that have specialized in taking down elephants. So here in the Mara, we don't see lions going after elephants. So this lion is still there. She's still sleeping while opening her eyes, twitching her ears. She's waiting for the sun to go down, at least to cool down a little bit, so that they can be active. Lions are mostly active during the night, but it's not unusual to see them active during the day. So they'll take that advantage during the day, especially when there's scarcity of food. They'll walk from their territory going over to other lions' territory, go and hunt, and come back to where their core pride area is. Being the two of them, there's a high success rate, other than one. I think that one is still fast asleep. I'm not sure if lions can dream. And if she's dreaming, I'm wondering what she's dreaming of. So as these lions sleep, I will head off, try to find something else, while you take you over to another safari vehicle.
Okay, from sleeping lionesses to these ones struggling to breathe. I understand that there are 4 of them and they have been seen here for a few days with a buffalo kill. I haven't seen all of them, and the main reason I think they're spread out within this small area, which is full of shrubs and tall grass. Very good for ambushing, small prey for them, and also it provides a lot of, much needed shade at this time. I think this is a coalition that we're going to look for in the next coming years, because already they have shown signs of becoming very, good buffalo killers. Apart from that, I don't know how or where they will stick when they become mature or they become bigger. They have been moving quite a lot, distance-wise from is Johannes. Good afternoon. You want to know how long a lion can go without food? When if you mean without food from when it last ate, well, they can go for a very long time. They can go for up to 10 days. In one case, I saw a big male lion that had gone for 14 days. Their health deteriorates very, very fast when they get to around 2 weeks without eating. They're almost all bony. When they walk, it's usually a very ugly figure, doesn't look like a lion. And when they're that hungry, you don't want to be close. Anything moving around them can be food. So Johannes, they can go very long time. Normally they would go around 7 to 10 days, but if really conditions are bad, they can go even longer. Look at how beautiful this young male is. No scratches at all, no marks that we can identify him with. He's just living a very good life. Remember, at this age, it is around 4 years. They are accumulating lots of fat, lots of strength that will help them out, another male that is existing within this area or another area. They need to be as big as possible. And usually when they are this age, they only can go for big and slow animals unless the zebra and wildebeest are around. And, they're already strong enough, being 4 of them, to bring down a buffalo. Very sleepy guy you see here, panting really fast, hoping that it's going to cool down quite soon. It is actually quite warm right now, and I cannot blame them. I don't know what he had. I'm going to change locations and move somewhere else. And while I do that, let's see what's happening somewhere else.
Well, we were sitting earlier with some elephants, right? And Seb and I saw one elephant which was covered in this dirt. It didn't look like mud wallowing, it was just dirt. And then we came to the hyena den and we found this massive hole dug into the ground, and we wondered, could this be the same thing? Why would the elephant do this? It didn't look like there was too much roots happening. And then we found this big bulb on the ground, which is amazing. That bulb is very, very important, not only as a source of water and nutrients for elephants, but also for humans, for human consumption. So this is called, as far as I can remember, and I'll have to double check with you, this is called dema, and it's quite big. That piece there is probably about the size of, I don't know, like maybe a loaf of bread. And I've seen them much larger. I've seen dema root bulbs that were literally so big you couldn't even put your arms around it. It's crazy. And it's full of liquid. I mean, if you can see here, I've collected a small piece of it that was lying on the ground. The elephants crunched it up and ate a whole bunch of it. They never seem to eat too much of it. And the reason why might be that dema itself is this very white fleshy bulb that's under the ground. And I don't know what the plant looks like, but this is what the bulb looks like. It's very white and fleshy, like a potato, smells like a potato, and the liquid that comes out of it would have if well, I'm not sure if you've just lost us there. I see our picture went away for a moment, but hopefully you can still see. So it's just like a potato, and the liquid that comes out is just like a potato. I'll show you now. Let me show you. Watch this. So I've got a little group that I just pulled off there. If I squeeze that, look how much comes out of that thing. It's a crazy amount of liquid, okay? And this stuff is used for humans as an emetic or a purgative. It cleans the stomach, or maybe use it as an emetic. So you'd eat some of this, and it would help you to purge your system if you were having stomach issues, let's say. So that's super, super cool to find. And I remember once, with a tracking partner that I used to work with at Ngala. His name is Fani. He was the head tracker at the time. And we found this massive Dema bulb that was dug up by elephants. And he watched this thing, and I saw his eyes looked, they were sparkling. He was very excited. And as soon as the elephants moved off, Fani actually jumped off the vehicle and went and cut about half this root, and said, Mike, this stuff is super important. His wife was a Sangoma, or an Inyanga, so basically practicing traditional medicines. And he said, my wife will love me so much if I bring her a piece of this root. So he cut a piece of it and he took it to her. And he says, this stuff is worth a lot of money and it's like super important, and people use this a lot. So it's a really, really important thing. And I'm so glad we found some here. What I'm actually going to do is rebury the bulb, this piece and the other pieces that we see there, because apparently this piece here will actually be able to regrow. You can see here there's a few bits of root material, not really root material, but fibers that will help this thing to regrow. It's just like a potato. Even if a piece of potato gets put in the ground, it will regrow with a bit of luck. So now it's the perfect time. I'm going to replant this Dema bulb. I can't remember what the scientific name is. It's very difficult to find. It's quite an obscure thing because you never see it. You all want me to try a piece. I'm not going to lie to you. I will try a small piece. I have no idea how this is meant to be prepared. Maybe I'm supposed to boil it first. Maybe it's toxic like this. I think let me do a little bit of research first before I start ingesting a strange root that is probably need to be prepared by a traditional Inyanga or a Sangoma. But maybe once I've done a little bit of research, I'll give this a little bite. And it literally smells just like a potato. It tastes a bit like a sandy potato too. All right. Anyway, I'm going to replant this, do a bit of research, and I'll get right back to you.
I love me a piece of sandy potato in the afternoon. I think Mike should definitely just eat it. This elephant bull is slowly moving towards a waterhole, so we thought if we hang around and watch him for a bit, then maybe we get to see him drink. If not drink, then maybe splash some muddy water all over him. And we've been looking at the way that he's been feeding, and every now and again from a distance we hear a crack. And look at his leg. See how he's putting that leg almost on a tree and pushing it over. And I think what's happened is because of the rains recently, it's just loosened up and made the soils really nice and soft, which makes digging quite easy. And there's a number of examples close to us over here that we can have a look at. I mean, there's one right next to the vehicle. So there's this one where he's completely, that's quite classic, where you can see how he's broken off some of the branches. But then if we go just to the right, over here, see there's a really big hole at the side of that. So it looks like he was digging with his foot, trying to get possibly even to one of those bulbs or tubers that Mike was trying to eat. And then, I mean, if you kind of scan throughout this whole area, there's just examples of these piles of sand. So that one over there looks like what he was doing, trying to almost push over and expose the roots in the soft soils. And he's really taking his time to get towards this water. And I mean, I would imagine the water would be quite muddy, so it might not be something that he decides to drink, but he'll definitely splash. Emrut, the largest elephant that I've ever seen is, we actually saw it. It was on my birthday, so in late July this year, we managed to sneak into the Kruger National Park just after they opened their gates. And we drove all the way up from here. We followed the Timavati River and we got to the Olifant River. And when we were there, we saw this elephant who had, his tusks were so big that they were almost touching the ground. And they were very, very symmetrical. They were basically about 30 centimeters off of the ground. And we watched him and spent about 2.5 hours with this big elephant bull. And he was completely relaxed. And he was by far the biggest tusker that I've ever seen in my life. He was huge.
This one is probably one of the bigger ones I've seen on Ngala, actually. We don't see too many big bulls very often, and it's one of those things that is so special to watch because there are so few of them, unfortunately. That genetic in the 1900s was hunted out by ivory traders, and these hunters that came from Europe who were trading in ivory and sending it all the way back to Europe and to China and to the Americas. And naturally, the bigger the tusks, the bigger the prize money, so they were targeted the most. And so you get these little pockets throughout Africa where you find these really nice big tuskers, and the Kruger National Park is one of them. In the eastern part of South Africa, there's another reserve called Tembe Elephant Park where it's just so dense that you actually can't find elephants in the sand forests, and there are a few very, very big elephants that are there. And then if you go up north into the Tswalu National Parks, you also get these beautiful big elephant bulls. So what used to be a very common sight throughout Africa is unfortunately not really common. It's actually a rarity. So that's why Owen and I, even though he's very far away from us, spending time with an elephant with tusks as big as him is always just something that we're not sure when we'll get the opportunity to do again. So Owen and I will watch him, and if he doesn't move towards that waterhole in the next 10 minutes, then we might continue our search for the lions. But if he does, then I'm sure we'll see you soon.
All right, from beautiful tuskers, always impressive to look at, to some beautiful birds. Yeah, I'm at the marsh, and as you expect to find in the marsh are small ducks. So these are, white-faced whistling ducks. Hence, why they call ducks? They whistle. They're whistling ducks. They sound like they whistle sometimes, like that's how they sound. And over here looks like they're actually walking in the water, eating maybe worms. That's what they're looking for, and filtering other algae that they normally feed on. Looks like there are very many. It's only that I don't have a drone, or I cannot drive there to show you, but this is one of our small ducks that we get. They go in flocks of up to 100, very many of them. And they're very happy there. You can tell some of them are relaxed, preening and cleaning themselves. Yes, very, very happy to be in this kind of place. Over here, and over here there we go. We have a gray-headed heron, and he's hunting for something. Look at that. Yeah, is it drinking or hunting? I think that was a drink taking. It was very quick. Okay, what else are you going to go for? Looks like it was drinking. That's the quickest drinking taking I've ever seen. These guys have got the advantage of their long legs. They can wade through water, avoiding, the feathers so that they don't get wet. Yeah, what happened there? You just flared your neck. And there is no shortage of them in this spot where I am. Bungay is going to do his magic, and you're going to see how many we have here. They're everywhere. I mean, they're scattered everywhere. There's so many. I just love this spot. To see these herons means there's lots of frogs, catfish, mudfish, worms, you name it. Anything that lives in water is here. Here it's a combination of sacred ibis, gray-headed heron, black-headed, and also great white egret, cattle egret. They're all here. Maybe we'll start identifying them for you as we do, as Bungay does the magic with his long lens. Okay, here we have the gray-headed, those three to the left, and then there's the great white egret, the one in the middle there. Yeah, with his wings open. The farthest one out, those are cattle egrets. Apart from being with buffaloes and cattle, you also find them close to, shallow waters. I think they've been feeding really well this morning because most of them are resting. They're not as active, but it is always lovely to see them. Means that the ecosystem in the water is working well. Yeah, these are, marshes and swamps that are created after rains. Where I am, usually I cannot drive here because the water comes all the way here. Recently it was almost dry, but the water has been filled in the last 2 weeks with the heavy rains that we received. At the backdrop there, you can see, who is that at the left there? Bungay, you see him? On the frame to the left, over there, who is that? Look at that. It looks like a African jacana, or the lily trotter. Wow, look at that. I haven't seen one in a while. Yeah, it's a long way. That's the farthest we could get. But these guys have got amazing feet, almost 5 centimeters toes, and that's why they're called lily trotters, because they are able to walk in almost very marshy waters and walk on lilies. They usually have a very fast pace so they don't sink, but with the advantage of the long toes, they're able to actually float in most places. Over there, I don't think it's much of a struggle, and I think there's plenty of this guy to eat. One of the only few birds that actually the male takes care of the young ones. I'm sure very many of you are loving this bird because of that. The female lays the eggs, and then male sits on the eggs and takes care of the young ones. Okay, I'm going to move on to somewhere else. Next time you see me, I'll be somewhere else. Let's find out what is happening with one of my fellow guides.
From the African jacana to these two birds that are fishing, we have a bird called the spoonbill, African spoonbill, the one that is moving up and about. And then the one that is actually still is the yellow-billed stork. Now these two birds are fishing. Look at how the yellow-billed stork is fishing. So they have super sensitive bills. As soon as when they will drag their bills in the water, and as soon as they grasp something, they snap shut. Sometimes you find that they pick a stick or maybe a rock, but I'm sure whenever they find something, look at what he just did. Yeah, very, very interesting. And the spoonbill is going up. Michelle, thank you so much. I can't agree more. The African spoonbill. This bird, I haven't seen it for quite a while. So we have two species. We have the Eurasian spoonbill that migrates all the way up to here, and this that is endemic, also resident here. We just have only like 2 spoonbills here, which is super interesting and super cool to see. We have the juvenile yellow-billed stork, and we have the adult yellow-billed stork, which is also interesting to see. Look at the spoonbill there. The reason why they're called the spoonbill, as you can see, the bill looks like, just towards the end, or the very tip of the bill, looks like a spoon, hence the name spoonbill. That's an immature yellow-billed stork. It seems like it's a feeding frenzy over here, and the spoonbill is just going about it. Spoonbills are beautiful. I also love them too. Since we got back here in the Mara, I haven't seen a spoonbill, so it's quite interesting for me also to get to see the spoonbill, an actually very active spoonbill feeding here. You can see the algae forming in the water. Wow, this is super interesting. Seems like she's had so much than the spoonbill, than the yellow-billed stork rather. So these birds are so interesting to us that they submerge their heads inside the water. While they do so, they close their eyes. See, it got something there. But then the bills are super active. As soon as they snap something, they get, see what happened just there? Get it in the mouth. But as soon as they submerge in the water, they don't open their eyes. They close their eyes. Oh, something ran out there. So they catch tadpoles, fishes, crustaceans, and other vertebrates, and all the creatures that are in this water. The juvenile yellow-billed stork is eyeing on something. Oh, another spoonbill came in. I'm sure this is a good spot to relax and wait as we move you over to another safari vehicle.
Dumela Wamahwetwi. Hello and welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Very good afternoon. My name is Carl, and behind camera, Mr. Glenn. And what a beautiful sight we have in front of us. A nice group of Springbok, a little mixed herd of Springbok, just busy doing their afternoon business, just mixed in with the nice growth of the camel thorn. Can see everybody taking a shady spot. It's about 27 degrees Celsius today, so it's starting to warm up. And conserving water until the favorable, more cooler periods approach, where they'll become a lot more active. That's why game drive is best early morning, late afternoon. So that's when these antelope will be moving and going about their business. It's our national animal, for all those people that don't know. The boka boka, also named after our rugby team, the Springboks. But a beautiful antelope it is. I'm happy you guys are happy seeing Springbok. I'm very happy seeing Springbok. They're such an elegant, sleek, slender, beautiful animal. And seeing them in herds like this is really a privilege. They do form mixed herds, anywhere from 50 up to a couple of hundred. In other parts of the world, up in like the Masai Mara, these family members of the Springbok can form massive herds, into the thousands. Namibia's got quite a few. They can also form quite large herds, and then they are really well adapted to this harsh and unforgiving environment. Got an itch. Using that hind foot quite effectively, scratching the itch. So you can see the heat rays coming off from the ground. If you guys want to see them pronking, I know of one gazelle, one Springbok. I've actually got my Springbok suit in the back. I think what I'll do is I'll strap it on later and I'll give you guys a pronking session. Really exquisite behavior displayed by Springbok. When they're excited or when they're trying to flee from a predator, it's also a way to show a predator, I am fit and I am strong, try me. You got 2 chances and they're both 0. Little female in picture. You can see the thin horns. And you wouldn't believe those tiny little legs pushing this animal up to 70 kilometers an hour. Incredible. One of the quicker antelopes that we have here, along with that red hartebeest that we saw a couple of days ago. But really well adapted. So it sounds like I've committed to that. So there'll be a lot of ewes here, a lot of females. We term females. I don't know. I have to see Dylan do it. So maybe when Dylan does it, maybe we'll have a pronk off. Dylan can come join me and we'll do a pronk off for you guys. Let's do it when we have our first big rains. How about that? A little bit of browsing. So the animal feeding off the bush there that you saw in the picture, that's what makes this little species of antelope so adapted to arid regions. the mobile lips and small structure of the skull allows it to feed off grasses, forbs, small bushes, and then low-laying trees. So whatever available nutrients is there, this antelope can then take it up. There is definitely limitations to certain antelope species within their mouth structure, some being very specific on where they eat, even on a piece of grass. They've got favorite juicy sections that they like. So some like freshly burnt grass, some like the very tips of grass, some like the leaf blades. And that's incredible. So that allows different antelope to be within one area, but then also allows different species to evade and get out the watchful eyes of these antelope. But what a beautiful setting. Busy resting. And this is when these antelope now will regurgitate that cud.
From the Kalahari to the water here, we have this yellow-bill stork. This stork is so patiently waiting for prey. Now they have a technique where we call it a snap bill reflex. As soon as that bill touches something, it snaps shut and gets whatever it's there. And rather than that, they have also a systematic, unique way that they stir their feet to move prey to either to the bill or maybe so that they can be able to touch or take the prey. So these storks rely mostly on senses rather than sight. So for example, if you look at it carefully, it's still opening its eyes, but as soon as they get their heads into the water, they'll rely mostly on senses. So most of the time you find them relying on senses rather than sight. They'll take down frogs, fishes, crustaceans, little vertebrates, and whatever that they'll find in this water. Small fishes. Sometimes they call them the woodstock because there's an American bird called the woodstock, which is almost similar to this yellow-billed stork. Right now we can see the one closest to us is slowly fledging, getting its color or plumage. But when there's another one that is approaching this site, they are so still, yeah. Also, I'm holding my laugh too because it's so interesting when you're watching these two birds here. They are patient feeders. They walk patient. Look at that. It's not moved yet. So you can tell they're so patient. And as soon as that bill touches something, it will snap shut. They have a super high reflex such that anything that is detected by that bill, it just snaps shut. Yes, the screen is frozen. Indeed. Oh, got something there. So sometimes you see them following crocodiles and hippos through the water and feed behind them, taking an advantage of any organism that is disturbed by those moving creatures like the hippos and crocodile. So when these young ones were still small by the nest, the adults will go back and regurgitate food at the nest. But I'm sure now they've adopted the skill to hunt or find food on their own. It's so interesting. See that one now has submerged its entire head in the water. Liz, I'm also fascinated by this. I can't agree more. It's super cool. cool and interesting. Now we'll be joined by that one, and we can see the African spoonbill in the water too. Look at that bill. So this, we call them the wading birds because of how they move their bills in the water side by side. Wow, look at the spoonbill, just went into the water straight ahead. Wow, that was super cool. So in the wild, the rule of the wild, sometimes the fastest catch the prey, and sometimes the patient also pays and they get something to eat. From the fast moving cheetah to these patient birds, look at how they were just patiently waiting for food. So it depends on adaptation. These creatures out here have specialized or adapted to taking prey by their movements. I can see the heron there waiting patiently also. Oh, they've been spooked. So as this bird carry on finding food, we also carry on to find something else interesting as we move you over to another safari vehicle.
This individual has just hidden half of its body and just its rump and hind quarter. Oh, hello. Beautiful. So there's thin horns, clear indication that that's a little female. So typical herds consist of between 10 and 50. That'll obviously depending on resources, time of the year, if it's rutting season or not. Let's just maybe move forward. Oh, you've got a good view there. Thank you, Glenn. That'll obviously vary depending on many factors. But in parts, like I just mentioned, they can form herds of up to 100, and then, in these big herds, it's very rare, but they can form herds of up into the thousands at a time. What a marvelous sight that is. Can we just go back to this individual here quickly? Just want to show you folks something. Look at this antelope, what it's doing. Angie, do they lamb in December? They would kind of synchronize their lambing period within the more favorable times of the year. So they can be all year breeders, but a lot of births will occur within that summer rainfall period, so that there's a lot of goodness for the mother around. Look what this antelope is busy doing right now. It is busy grooming itself, and it's using its bottom teeth. Antelope only have bottom teeth. They have teeth that run at the top of the jaw and then the bottom section, but the very front teeth, there's nothing there. And they actually use the teeth against a pad called the dentine pad, and that's how they crop vegetation. And that antelope was busy using that bottom set of teeth to comb. Oh, look on the left, on the right. Sorry, Glenn, look here, it's pronking, look here. You guys wanted pronking and displaying, look at this. So that one individual just got my attention on how it was looking to my right-hand side, getting everybody excited. Look how efficient that animal is moving, exerting a little bit of energy and moving very fast. Yo, hello. It's the way to come into a crowd. So it was busy using its bottom teeth in order to groom its coat. Very efficient way of removing dead hair, and then also any little niggly parasites found on top of the hair. Or the fur, let me say it that. But a marvelous animal, eh? Very striking colors, white belly, nice dark stripe in the central part of its ribs, and that light brown dorsal coat. That's something referred to as counter shading. So a very unique color scheme to help this animal blend into the vast environment. So if you imagine this animal 2 kilometers away, that color scheme allows it to blend in with the environment and allows it to stay safe and out, the sneaky, watchful eyes of lions and cheetah. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate. kids questions at wildearth.tv and hashtag wildearth. Any comments, any questions, let us know. White belly once again, that adaptation just to reflect all the heat pushed up from the ground. Well, Julia, they actually every night we get them in. We have a siren, a little bell that we ring, and we get them in every night and we give them a good wash and a good coat rub just to make sure they're in tip-top condition. I'm just joking that we don't do that. But my little niece actually asked me one day, we were busy watching an impala, and she was 7 at the time, and she looked at me and she said, "Carl, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "My sweetheart, of course, yes." She looked at me, but she said, "It's a stupid question." And I said to her, "There's no stupid questions. The stupid thing is not asking the question, because the mind can be so wild sometimes that even you think, oh, it's a bit strange." But she looked at me and she's like, "The impala are so beautiful." She's like, how do they keep the coats clean? Do you guys, groom them to keep them clean?" She must have been a bit younger than 7. But it was such a beautiful little question, and I thought to myself, that it's not a stupid question, but they just keep themselves in such good nick. It's unbelievable. So using those bottom teeth to groom, that's one way in which they would do that. But yeah, in super, super good nick. And they do always look shiny and just so beautiful. Whoo, how high can they jump? So when they are doing that pronking behavior, they would be able to jump at about, I think it would be about 4 to 6 meters in a full pronk. And they do that when they're excited or when they're trying to show that they are fit. So I would say it's about between 4 and about 5-6 meters they can lift themselves off the ground, which is incredible. There might be a little bit of vary on that. That's just a guesstimation, just to let you know. But I would say between 4 and 5-6 meters. Oh, little one coming through here. That's beautiful. Look at that. Everybody's getting very excited now. But that little trot that you were seeing there is very efficient way of moving. So when they're moving and they're on the move, especially in places where they chase rain, like the Maasai, your gazelles are equipped to move in that energy efficient, almost trot. So you are expending a little bit of energy, but you're getting from point A to point B a bit quicker. Really amazing to see that. It always fascinates me how they move. The movement of animals is something really, really amazing. Animals will be able to understand just the movements of an animal, if it's a predator or not. The way a predator moves is unique to a predator. An antelope can see the way it moves, and they know that movement, I don't want to be here. Unbelievable.
So we decided to leave that elephant. He was taking his sweet time to get towards that pan, and we thought we might as well continue on with our plan to carry on looking for those lions. And I just thought I'd take the opportunity to show you pretty much where we are and our plans. So we drove from our lodge, we came all the way down into this section, and this is the area where we saw that nice big elephant bull, and we've just come to check this area. So we're right on our boundary at a small little water hole, and there's no sign of those lions here, unfortunately. So I think what we might end up doing is making our way back up north and see what we might be able to find. Around this area was where that young male leopard was seen, somewhere over there. This morning we found him quite early on, so if we're lucky he might still be around there, and then from there we can see where the drive takes us. So no lions yet, but potentially tomorrow they might be back. They never really spend too long off of the reserve before they're back again. And this is day number 4 or 5, I think, that they haven't been on Ngala. So, Graf, the pride that I'm looking for, yes, there are. There are 2 cubs that are just over 6 months old. And if you've been watching in the last 6 months, you've probably seen them. So it's the same pride with the 2 white lions. We refer to them sometimes as the Birmingham Pride, and they've been moving around a lot recently. It's been quite fascinating to watch. And so from where we are now to the very top of the reserve is probably about close to 35, maybe 40 kilometers. And in 1 week, they moved probably about 4 or 5 kilometers north of the northern point of Ngala. And now they are about 7 kilometers, or the last time they were seen was 7 kilometers south of Ngala. So they've covered at least about 60 or 70 kilometers as the crow flies over a week and a half. And we're not sure why they're moving around so much all of a sudden. There could be males that are moving around and causing havoc. We've seen 2 or 3 different sets of males that we don't recognize. So they might be chasing the pride around a little bit, but also they're a big pride, they're confident, they've got lots of mouths to feed, so they need to cover ground continuously to hunt. And so they could just be looking for the next meal. And because the cubs or the sub-adults now are big enough to keep up with the females, they're not getting slowed down anymore. So they are just walking and walking and walking. It's quite fascinating. It makes it very hard for us to find them. And sometimes we have to put in a good 4.5, 5 hour search when we've got their tracks until eventually we do find them. So, yeah, it's interesting, and it's nice to see that the dynamics and things are not exactly how we think they are. They're constantly changing. It's moving back and forth. They're crossing into areas that we would never have imagined them to be in. It's nice that they're keeping us on our toes. So as we start going up into the northern part, we'll start to experience slightly different habitats, and there might be some different animals that come with that.
Well, we found an animal we haven't seen on Pridelands for quite a while. Came to Leopard Dam to look at buffaloes and found a hippo, which is amazing. So obviously with all the rainfall that we had, the hippo has managed to find its way back into Leopard Dam. It's fantastic to see. This wet weather means that bulls who are often under pressure by larger male hippos to find their own territory, can do so. They can move long distances without drying up or overheating. So this is great. This is probably a young bull who's settled down here in Leopard Dam, and hopefully going to stick around for a while. Actually, looking at the dam, it's incredibly a lot fuller than it was. So the rainfall must have fallen very heavily here. In Ndlovu Dam at our camp is not much fuller, but this dam is incredibly full. Yeah, it's awesome to see a hippo here. And, if I look around here, this little island with the tambuti tree that's sort of in front of us, that was completely separated from the rest of it was completely joined to the land. But now it's sort of an island again. And there's buffaloes, as you can see in the distance. The whole herd is sort of on the little sandbank. My big head might be in the way. Oh, there you go. So there's a whole bunch of buffaloes. So it's awesome. So rainfall is just bringing the bush to life. I mean, from buffaloes at the dam to hippos in the water, this is just incredible. A lot of action around. I mean, the next thing we're going to find, hopefully, is that the predators have been very lucky. Oh, my head's in the way. The predators have been very lucky, hopefully, to have made some kills during that windy, wet and rainy weather. But for now, these buffaloes look quite safe. I see a lot of sparring going along with the young bulls. It's nice now because, as you can see, there's a lot of greenery in the trees. The dust has been washed off, and a lot of the trees just in the last couple of days have literally just started to sprout leaves like crazy, and we've seen lots of grass as well sprouting. So all the animals are just exuberant with the cooler temperatures and the excess of water and food. Peter, hippos tend to only eat grass. That is true. They come out of the water at night and they do feed on grass, just like these buffaloes do. And they eat a lot less grass than another animal of a similar size, because of course they live in water, so their body is buoyant. But it's not to say that they only eat grass. They'll probably nibble on a leaf or two here or there by accident, not on purpose. And of course, we've seen hippos before feeding on the stomach content of animals that have died or been killed at water's edges, which is also quite interesting. They're only after the stomach content for the grass that's in it, but it's always interesting to see. Look at all the oxpeckers. So this herd of buffaloes has one youngster who is terribly injured. I think it's that one right there. It's that one in the screen right now. This buffalo has got a big wound behind his horn on his left side. So you can see his face is a bit swollen there, and the oxpeckers are literally going crazy there. It looks like his horn is damaged. I think he was maybe in a bit of a tussle with a larger, stronger buffalo and got an injury. So it was probably very painful when it happened, and the oxpeckers are literally just staying right there. The buffalo seems to be quite tolerant of them, though. It's quite important. So the oxpeckers can be helpful. They can keep away infected material and parasites from the wound, but they also stop the wound from healing very quickly. And of course, a wound on the head bleeds quite frequently and quite a lot. So the oxpeckers are actually eating that blood material. You know, that's the reason why they eat ticks, is they just want the blood that's inside them. I'm glad we caught them. When we were with Norman the other day, we did see them, but we couldn't get him on film. So today I'm glad to see we can get it on film. It's a lot less fresh. When we saw him, it was very fresh. It was bleeding quite a lot. Now it seems to have dried. So I hope that he's going to do well. I'm always amazed by buffaloes, especially's capacity to recover from sometimes hectic, very, very powerful. Oh, and there's Tungsten. I don't know if you can see just over there by that termite mound. We found Tungsten is following the group. I think it's Tungsten, just on the left there by the big termite mound. He's right at the edge of the water. See, coming down to the water's edge. Look at his little tongue coming out the side of his mouth. Yeah, look at him. So that's Tungsten. We all know him quite well. Those of you who've been watching Pridelands for the last while. He's got a bit of damage to his jaw that must have happened when he was very young. And so his tongue sort of sticks out the side of his mouth. It doesn't seem to bother him because he's extremely big and powerful and, you know, a very calm individual. So it's not a wound that causes him too much problem. But obviously it was there at some point. So weird to watch him with his tongue sticking out the side of his mouth. Speaking of wounds and you know, ways of... You all enjoy Tungsten. I love Tungsten. He's my favorite buffalo on this whole reserve. But speaking of wounds and, you know, medicines and healing and stuff, so actually once we found this route, this dema that we were talking about earlier, I actually decided to call Fani. You know, the Fani, the tracker that I said I was working with, who jumped off the vehicle and took a piece. I called him just to see if he still remembered that exact experience, and he did. And he said, "Oh, Mike, it's great." He said it's very, very important to boil the root. So you cut it up into little cubes like potato. You boil it until the water starts to turn a bit of like a yellowy color, and you drink it. He says it's really, really, really bitter from the dema root, but he says that it's really good for cleansing the blood, which I found quite strange. And then his voice got very mischievous, and he said it's also very good for the intondo, which is basically, how can I put this? It will make a husband vigorous and a wife very happy. Let's just put it that way. So the dema root is good for many purposes, apparently. Not going to help Tungsten, unfortunately. Although I don't think he's got any problems. Look at, he's actually enjoying himself. So this buffalo herd is slowly moving away, and it's good to see that that Tungsten and the rest of the bulls are following them. They maybe with all this extra lush growth, they've got a bit more energy to follow the herd.
Now here we have a group of birds. We call them the Egyptian geese. Now we have a mother geese and a father geese who have done a very, very good job. Look at all those goslings. So they look almost similar to the parents, but as soon as they've opened their wing, you see the mother and the father have a white patch on the primaries on the side of the wings. So this is so interesting to see. So these birds, the Egyptian geese, the male and the female, will pair for life, and they take care, they do parental care, both of them, when they're leading their young ones to forage out in the open and in the terrestrial area. This is so cool. Look at how many there are. This is so interesting. Now, Egyptian geese were considered to be sacred in the ancient Egyptian. You can see lots of paintings in Egypt which were Egyptian geese, which is so interesting to see, hence the name the Egyptian geese. So I'm going to wait for these birds to carry on with their forage, and as we do that, we take you over to another safari vehicle.
I might just back up. And so our afternoon's taken a strange turn. We've got some ostriches that are not very common at all at Ngala. And what makes it unique is if we were to see one, we'll be surprised. There are 6 ostriches here. I cannot believe it. This is the most ostriches I've ever seen on Ngala. I'm going to just reverse back. The majority of them are behind us, and they're not sitting still. They almost looks like they're displaying to one another. I might back up even more. There's just one more bush I'd like to get behind. That's it there in frame, and then it's nice and open, and hopefully we get to see what they're up to. Maybe just drive past them a little bit more. But what's so interesting is that it's both males and females. So all of the darker ones that you'll see now are all the males. And then there's only 2 females that are in this area. And, I mean, I have noticed on a few of the males there's a bit of brown patching. So I wonder if they're not just young males. But the females were displaying to them. And it's very unusual. I've never quite seen that behavior. This one's feeding on the ground now. It's such an odd creature. That long neck with those funny legs. So the group of males are now moving away from the females, actually. You see, so that's the displaying I noticed. There's wings out, trying to make themselves look nice and big. So that one there that's in frame, it looks like it won that confrontation with the other one who decided to move off. Umu, as far as I know, yes. You only get 2 different species of ostriches. So these ones are called the common ostrich, and then north of Kenya, you get a different type of ostrich called the Somali ostrich. And so I think it's just, this is the same one that we see all the way up in East Africa. It's like something out of a cartoon. I mean, it's so weird. So a few of the viewers are comparing them to dinosaurs, and I think it's a pretty accurate description. And so now the 2 males have now turned back and are coming back towards the females. And typically what would happen is it would be 1 adult male. That's why I'm finding it quite strange to see 4 of them together. And so it would be 1 adult male with his harem of females. And so it's a lot more common to see 1 male and several different females together rather than more males than there are females. So I wonder, I mean, I really don't know what's going on here. So instead of speculating, I just sit and enjoy. I think what could be happening is there's 1 male with his harem. Yeah, so Marlene, that's what we are sort of seeing. I mean, some of the mating dance. Oh, look at that. Male chasing the female around. That's why I think these females could be coming into estrus, or there's no other reason as to why I could think that they would attract so many different males into the same area. And if anyone doesn't know their mating dance, so quite like we saw that one male puffing out his feathers to make himself look big, that's the type of mating dance that happens. And again, on the left-hand side, there's more activity with the males chasing each other back and forth. I was reading a bit about ostriches the other day, and they were saying that within the Kruger National Park, they estimate, or the last count was probably close to under 500 of them. And so for us to be watching 6 ostriches within here in the Kruger National Park out of 500 is quite spectacular. And one thing that I'd absolutely love to see is tiny little ostrich chicks. I think that would be an awesome sight to see.
Wow, there I've just learned something. Only 500 ostrich in the Kruger. That is incredible. So it shows you how lucky you are to see some of these animals where people just see them and see them like, okay, it's another ostrich. It's really nice that people appreciate, the rarer spectrum of the animals. All the shelducks still doing perfectly fine, doing a bit of feeding. Obviously a lot of feeding is done like this in water. But these birds will also take long flights, 30-odd kilometers. They'll also fly at night time to maybe go crop on fields. But this is typical feeding behavior we're seeing of these young ones. And everybody is doing great. 2 of them in the water, and there's 3 of them in the water. One taking a snooze in the water, and the other one on the bank. But there was one feeding there, and then the other sibling came up, and obviously it must be good feeding because the other one rushed up there quite quickly. So we've just come to the watering hole. Take a look what we could find here. If anybody's coming for a drink or maybe a little mud wallow. I'm considering a mud wallow. Sure, saying a lot of things here today. Pronking, mud wallowing. But on another note, there was 2 questions asked this morning and one now. How high can a springbok jump? On average between 2 and 4 meters. I over-exaggerated that height just a little bit. 2 to 4 meters a springbok will pronk. And then the one question was from Godfrey this morning, how many patches would be found on giraffe? I've looked through it. It would vary depending on individual. So each pattern is unique to that individual self. And then as well as it would change through the subspecies. Some people recognize 7 subspecies. Some illustrations recognize 9. It's a big controversial topic about those. I'm still going to stick to my day job. And then the other one was from Lauren about the mole rat. Very interesting. So with the mole rat, they are distantly related. They also had independent or different lineages at a time. The most incredible thing about the naked mole rat is that it's almost entirely ectothermic. Mind-boggling stuff. We're talking about a mammal here. And then as well as the Damaras will disperse more readily than that of the mole rat. And then they are also more genetically diverse. Hurting my feelings here, guys. Does it look like a seal? So this is its toofies. Okay, it does look like a seal now that I look at it. Sorry about that. I'll keep my day job, guys. But just getting back onto those 2 fascinating questions that we got asked this morning. Keep them coming, please. We love it. It gets you guys involved. It makes us really appreciate, everything that we do out here. And then it taps into other avenues that, we wouldn't really or necessarily think about. But what we're going to do is we're going to leave this pan. We're going to continue a little bit further south, scratch out around there, and then we're going to come back here a little bit later.
Well, it was very interesting. We were watching Tungsten have a little bit of a barney, a bit of a fight with this other buffalo bull, but it seems they've decided to settle their differences like gentlemen and talk it out. And I start heading, Tungsten's going to show him who's boss by smashing small pile of dirt. So these buffaloes are probably not having a serious fight, or in fact they weren't having a serious fight. They definitely weren't. But it was very interesting to watch, because even these, animals, when they're not having a serious fight, they're very powerful, so it's a lot of energy expended. But anyway, as they move off, some other animals arrived at the waterhole. There's 2 elephant bulls that have also arrived to put more pressure on this hippo, which, in fact, I don't know where the hippo's gone now. I can't see him anymore. He's undoubtedly moved to where there's a little bit less activity. He's obviously a recluse for a reason. So there you can see 2 elephant bulls. One elephant bull is being absolutely ridiculous. People need to drink from that. So, as you can see, elephants don't mind. They will go toilet wherever they want, and they really don't mind either way. But they've got much stronger immune systems than us, I suppose. I certainly won't be drinking any of that water anymore. I was considering it until just then. As you can see, this other elephant bull is taking advantage of the fact that he can walk right into this water. This one's actually got a short trunk. If you can notice that the tip of its trunk is missing. So, yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. But this one here is now, it's got a piece of the end of its trunk missing. So it actually goes into the water so it can reach a bit further in there. So you can see it doesn't have those 2 pinchy little, end bits. I always forget what they're called. But the trunk obviously works more or less the same as it would otherwise. It's just about a foot shorter than it should be. And I'm not sure what happened. It might have been something that happened when it was very young, because it looks like it's healed and it doesn't have any issues using it. The fact that he's got a short trunk doesn't take away from the fact that he's got a really perfectly symmetrical set of tusks, which is great. The left tusk looks a little bit blunter than the right, so maybe this is a left-tusked elephant. Maybe. I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell. Certainly both of them are bulls. The smaller bull is now heading off. This one is taking advantage of the fact that there's a little bit of water. Jacqueline, I think that they probably do get less aggressive with age. Not necessarily because they mellow. Well, I guess I'm going to anthropomorphize here, but they mellow out as they get older, become less adrenaline-fueled. They get bigger and stronger, and nothing else can really bother them. When an elephant is this size, this one is not quite at its full size yet. It's a big elephant, but probably has to push and shove its way around the other young elephants in order to show off how strong it is. But once it gets to Kumo's size and older, they become more or less the most powerful things around, so they get bothered very little. Although, interestingly, as calm as Kumo is, you'd think he was probably the top dog or the top elephant. Another elephant bull came into our camp a few days ago who had just one tusk, one very thick, strong tusk, who was probably a little bit bigger than Kumo, and Kumo very quickly submitted to this larger elephant. He actually backed right off and left the camp, and the other elephant spent a good few hours feeding. So it was really, really good to see that even Kumo, being very big, knows when to be calm and just submit without a fight to this larger elephant bull. And there he goes, walking off up into the veld, probably following the younger one. There are lots of elephant bulls spread about Pridelands at the moment. We've passed... Oh, it's so nice to hear that splashing. Now the squelching of its feet. Watch those feet as they squash as it climbs up there. Lots and lots of elephant bulls all spread about Pridelands at the moment. Lots of puddles everywhere, so they don't need to concentrate themselves around the water holes. They can basically go wherever they want. And the ground being so soft at the moment means that all the roots and trees can be pushed over very easily. It's a really good time if you're an elephant. Basically, the whole reserve is your playground.
From the elephant to the migratory animals, here we have the wildebeest, and amongst them we have a few little zebras that are mixed up while they are grazing. Now sometimes people might wonder, why are zebras following the great herds? Now the reason sometimes because the zebras and the wildebeest graze in harmony, and they both eat different parts of the stem of the grass. So while the wildebeest will be the first ones to carry on in the movement, they eat the longer stem of the grass, and then what is left over, the short grass, then the zebras get an advantage of that, which is super, super interesting. So these wildebeest, sometimes they do what we call a swarming intelligence, where they walk into a very big herd, sometimes to avoid obstacles. You find that if they gang up and move in a very big mass, sometimes I've seen them actually chasing down a predator, because if they come in a big number, then the predator gets off, which we call it the swarming intelligence. Look at how they're grazing now. At least the grass is now low. Before, this grass was super, super tall. They don't have a natural leader, so when they move around in big herds, sometimes they split up and circle the big herds. As we can see, they're not all gathered in one place. They've already split up, and so when they're moving, each and every wildebeest Thank you, Grimland General, for your question. These are not the resident wildebeest. These are part of the Great Migration. So they're moving from Serengeti all the way down to Ndendutu, if they move from here, and then they carry back on coming to Masai Mara here in Kenya. So these are the nomads or the migratory wildebeest. They're not the residents. The residents are found in further east, a place called the Loiter Plains, and also have other residents that are further southeast at a park called Amboseli in Kenya, and we have some few that also in central part of Nairobi called the Nairobi National Park. So these are the ones that bring that phenomena of the Great Migration. You can see a ram impala there walking over the screen, followed by a few ewes. I'm sure he's leading them to a safe place where they can rest for the night. So nothing is going on that much. So I'm sure this herd will try maybe tomorrow to go to the river and maybe drink, and sometime it can prompt them to cross over. You can see a few zebras there walking up in the background. So when they mix like this, remember I told you they eat different parts of the grass. And also, being a mixed herd, there is no competition over food. So they also come in handy when it comes to security. You can see a Thompson gazelle. So also Thompson gazelle do migrate. We have zebras, wildebeest, eland, topi. They're part of the Great Migration. But the big number, of course, being the wildebeest. Reckon about 800,000 wildebeest are born each year. Can you imagine a big number like that being born each and every year? That's what has made it become the world number 9 or 9th wonder of the world. And mind you, it's such... John, thank you for your comments. Such a peaceful evening. It's quiet, calm. The sun is not too hot, it's shady. See, most of the animals are relaxed. I agree with you, John. So during this cycle, when they're coming back to Kenya, back and forth, heading back to the Serengeti, an estimate of about 200,000 wildebeest die because of predation and some stampeding to death. I'm sure you've seen lots of videos of them crossing over the Mara River. They stampede over, some of them dying, and it's reckoned that within this ecosystem we have about more than 3,000 lions in the Serengeti Mara ecosystem, where some of the predators follow these great herds, and due to that, a big number of them get to die because of the predation. Can you see them? These impalas are enjoying mixing up with the wildebeest. As you watch these impalas, let's take you over to another safari vehicle.
So from one odd bird to another very strange bird, we've got some southern ground hornbills in front of us. And it seems like it's two of them. So that one there with the bright red face is an adult, and then a little bit further along is looks like a juvenile. It's got a very dark face. And they're walking through the grass and they're looking for something to feed. I've seen that adult go down and pick something up that he's just done. So there you go. There you go. So he juggled it around in his beak and then swallowed it. I wonder what that is. It must be some sort of bug. But this is also a very dinosaur-looking bird, with that long beak and the funny coloured face. It's definitely got a pterodactyl feel to it. It might actually be three of them together. I think I've just seen two adults. And I mean, for the most part, they go after pretty small things, and occasionally you'll see them hunting scrub hares, or they might flush out quite a large snake or a lizard. But about 3 or 4 years ago on Ngala, there was a vehicle that witnessed a group of hornbills, I think it was 5 of them, who all teamed up and they successfully caught a brand new impala lamb, and they killed it and ate the whole thing, which is amazing for something that a bird this small would be able to do. See, and if we look at the top of its horn, we will be able to tell whether it's the male of the group or potentially the female. But just looking at how big the husk, I think it's called the husk, is. Yeah, so I can show you quickly, just whilst we're not really having very good visuals of it, just to show you what the difference between the male and the females, and it's very subtle, but the big beak, and then that's the I can't remember the technical name of the crown or the trumpet of it is. So this is the male, so quite a lot more red, and red all the way up to the base, and then this is the female. So they look very, very similar. I mean, if you look at the yellow-billed hornbill, there's quite a large difference between the bill of the male and the bill of the female. So that's always something to take note of. Let's see if we can see them again. I think I might have to just creep a bit forward and see if we can change our angle to see them. Thanks. So Owen has just spotted. Do you want me to move forward, Owen? Or? Okay, Okay, cool. We've got one view. Oh, and they've just walked into long grass, so the only thing that we're seeing is the very top of their heads. So there's two right next to one another. The one you can't even see properly. And that one looks like it might be the juvenile. So now that they're disappearing, we're going to carry on with our drive. We're not too far away from the river, and we'll see what other animals might be on offer.
Beautiful little sandgrouse. Good afternoon, sandgrouse. So look how the pattern enables this bird to blend in. I just saw the head move when we were driving past. It was actually sitting in and amongst that dung in frame there now, or in picture. And that pattern or coloration that the bird has really just allows it to disappear into this terrain. Very slow movements, Also not trying to talk too loud because it might fly. This is typically where you would find a sandgrouse midday, moving about on the ground, feeding. Beautiful. So seeds would definitely be its main source of food. And you can see how the beak on this vehicle, it's always a birding afternoon. Birds are just always there, and they're always busy. They're always abundant. So it's a constant stimulation that's why I love birds. And I only started really enjoying birds at about a year, maybe, after I started guiding. Before that, I didn't really notice birds. I knew a dove and a crow and an eagle, but once I started guiding and really got into it, it became almost desirable, like I wanted to do it every single day. It becomes an addiction. That's why they call big birders twitchers. So you just want to just bird all the time. But this looks like little birchels, sandgrass. And this is the female. The male in this species of birds, the male is different. There's a sexual dimorphism between them. Oh, getting grub. And recognizing its tracks is very easy. If you take a look how the bird is walking, so recognizing its tracks on the ground is fairly easy, because you've got other ground birds that move between here. You've got doves that move here, also looking for seeds. But they walk with their little feet almost turned into one another. And you can also see the gap between the feet. Zahir asked a question there, where do they make their nests? Well, Zahir, they really don't make a elaborate nest. Let me put it at that. Their nest would consist of a shallow scrape in the ground. Shallow scrape in the ground, and that's about it. Maybe a little bit of lining here and there, but they don't construct an elaborate nest. And it fits in perfectly with this environment. If you have a flashy nest, that means other predators are going to pick up your nest fairly easy in this environment. So having a shallow nest and your eggs being cryptically colored, this is how this bird successfully breeds. And I mean, think about it. It's just 2 to 3 eggs on the ground, and they are successful at that. So the eggs obviously being this mottled brown and black speckling on it is a way in which the eggs blend into the environment, so making it almost unseen. And you have to be really sneaky and really clever as a predator to pick up where these birds have made a nest. So no elaborate nest, just a shallow scraping on the ground. I mean, that's risky business. I mean, if you take a look at nests, if you want to go elaborate, nests are made to deter predators and to keep the eggs and the chicks safe. So even when the little ones hatch, their downies, or their first set of feathers, are adapted to blend in, to camouflage the little chick. And I mean, it's got to be such a hair-raising experience, being this tiny little brand new chick into this vast big world, and you're on the ground. That's why when the chicks hatch, they hatch in a physical form we refer to as precocial. So with birds breeding, laying eggs, when the little chick hatches, physical state, we refer them to as precocial. So where they hatch, and they hatch in a very advanced physical form. So the bird's eyes are open, it's got a set of feathers over its body covering it to keep it warm and insulated. Its legs are developed so it can move and run. And I mean, it's got to be really scary to be a tiny little bird out here. And then you got things like jackal and caracal and Cape fox. I mean, it's touch and go. How they survive to adulthood, you got to be so tough. And in this environment, holding your nerve is one way in how this little bird will survive, because if you move, you'll be picked up. So these little chicks, once they've hatched, they will be in the area so that mom and dad know where to find them, because mom and dad will have to bring water back to them. They can't get to water. So when mom and dad leave them here for a large portion of the day, they will remain absolutely dead still. They will not move unless absolutely necessary. And being put into a natural tree cavity or into a nice cozy nest, that's great.
Jumbo. Once again, we have left the marsh and we're on the periphery. We went towards where all the wildebeest and zebra are, and surprisingly, just to inform you, they have walked very far. This morning, where we found them and where they are right now is around 5 kilometers. That is around 4 miles or 3.7 miles. They have walked that far. The main reason, I don't know, but looks like the pace is very, very fast this time, unlike usually when they come and stick around one point for very long. Yeah, we have some very beautiful giraffe, very beautiful zebra. They're all around us. It is very typical when you get to the core of the migration or to the big herds that you have, herds all surrounding you. Yes, thank you for appreciating the beautiful scene. It is indeed. This is a female giraffe and looks like she is, she's carrying a baby. They normally have, carry one for about 13, 14 months. Very, very pregnant. This time of the year, we have seen quite a lot of young ones. I haven't shared them with you on this live safari, but I will be doing that. But we have quite a good number of young ones, and we have more and more every time. That is a youngster, maybe about 3 years. He's enjoying walking on the road. I don't know how it feels. This is the Maasai giraffe, the only one that is found in the Masai Mara. There are many species spread out all over Africa, but this animal has a unique adaptation where it has one of the longest necks in the world, and it's able to reach a height of about 19 to 20 feet. It's the main reason we have these umbrella type trees in the Mara, because they do all the underbrowsing. It's one of beautiful browsers that we have. Okay, do you want to decide cross the road or do you want to come towards me? It's a beautiful gait that they have. It's called ambling, and it's very clear. You can say there they're pushing left and left, right and right. Thank you, Bungay. Yeah, look at that. Looks like they are on high heels when you look at them from the front. Yeah, the pointed muzzle that you can see there is for breaking through or getting in through brushes, so they don't, get resistance going through bushes. Inside that prolonged muzzle, they have a very long tongue that they use to, coil around bushes and pull. Usually, most people think that they eat the thorns, but they wrap around the tongue around a brush and then pull it, only getting away with the leaves. Look at that side profile. It's beautiful. Is that a scar on its back leg, Bungay? Is it? Do you see that? Yeah, no, it's just a bony part. Yes, this is beautiful. That's a young male, actually, the one to the right. If you know, you know. If you look at it, it's got a belly button. Yeah, looks like they have a mission. Maybe this could be a previous calf, the female. She's on a mission, but maybe he doesn't want to join him. Well, this is a very beautiful sight, but we have to show you something else somewhere.
So we left Leopard Dam. The hippo decided to be reclusive, and the buffaloes moved off into a drainage line. And we decided to check on this particular road I haven't driven for a while, and we found that it runs right underneath the nest of this bird. Now, I wanted to find out from you, have you all been paying attention? Do you all know what this bird is? I think you probably do. We've spoken about it quite a bit. It's an awesome bird. It's one of my favorite raptor birds. It's quite distinctive because of that little tiny crest. It's a very cute little crest. A chicken, I mean, I can see the similarities. It has feathers. Could be a chicken. Not a chicken, though, in case any of you are wondering. It ain't a chicken. Chicken don't have claws like that. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, just wondering. Small, not very big. It's only about 58 centimeters, which is actually pretty big for a bird, but for an eagle, not particularly large. Only weighs about 1 kg. Megan, a brown snake eagle would be a very good guess. It's unfortunately not correct, but in Afrikaans it's called a breinarend, which is just brown eagle. So it's a very good guess, and you could be mistaken for it. This one is sitting very upright. But brown snake eagle has very, very yellow-orange eyes, and this one's got conspicuously dark eyes. And that small crest. And also brown snake eagles also seem like they have a bit of a crest also. It's a good guess, though. It's a bit too pale for a brown snake eagle. And the bill is too small. And the dark eye. Oh, it's showing off how much it can turn its head. Did you see that? That was pretty impressive. They've got very flexible necks. They can turn their head almost all the way back. Jamie, you are correct. Absolutely, it is a Wahlberg's eagle. Nice. Tiny little crest, small brown eagle with a small bill and dark sunken eyes. Absolutely well done. And this is one of the pair, and I was just doing a bit of research about them, and it is actually really cool. So they can live up to 14 years, and they are very, very monogamous, coming back to the same nest year after year. In fact, one particular nest was used, well, I mean, by more than one pair, but for 28 years in a row, one particular nest was used. So it'd be interesting. I wonder how long this nest in this tree has been used. You can't see it from here where we're sitting, so we're just going to look at the eagle for now, but it's not a very big nest. It does, ooh, what's caught its attention? It's put its crest down, and it extended its neck out as if something caught its attention. I wonder if there's something moving around. They mostly eat reptiles and rodents, but they will also catch birds. I've in fact seen one of these birds, one of the Wahlberg's eagles, catch a black-winged kite, which is not much smaller. So that was pretty impressive to see. I wonder what caught its attention. I wonder if the other Wahlbergs is maybe coming into the area. They are not very big. As far as eagles go, they're quite small. So they're also, the prey, not necessarily the prey, but they can be chased off by larger eagles. But he's definitely spotted something. I say he, it could be a she. Definitely spotted something. Both males and females both look alike. And what's amazing, I don't know, it is a beautiful shot of this bird. I mean, it's an incredibly handsome bird. I think of all the eagles, it's one of the most handsome. It's very neat in its appearance. It's got that little crest. And it's a cool angle that we've got. And has anyone ever seen the pale version of this bird? If you've seen the pale version, you'll know it's incredibly handsome. Now, I don't have a photo of, in fact, I do have a photo of one, but not with me right now. But the whole body is white and it's got dark wings. It's so beautiful. You've seen them at Juma. That's so awesome. I haven't seen a pair of, or at least one of those pale ones yet here, but I'm sure we'll see one soon. I think the other of the pair is arriving because I can hear lots of birds alarm calling in the distance. I don't know if you can hear that. It's a go-away bird alarming exactly in the direction that Wahlbergs is looking. So I do wonder if the other Wahlbergs is maybe on its way here. That would be cool to see. We thought we saw them mating. I was on the vehicle with Norman a few days ago, and he just said, "Oh, look, they're mating," and I didn't even know what he was talking about. I was looking everywhere. And then I looked up, maybe even on this exact same leadwood tree, with the two Wahlbergs, and the male was mounting the female. It was actually really amazing to see. It was quite a balancing act. Zahir, that's an awesome question, and one that I've never been asked before. Now, I've seen them fly fairly fast, but not like a falcon. We had a falcon fly over a bit earlier in the drive. Too fast for us to get on film, unfortunately, but that thing was really cruising very, very quickly. And now Wahlberg's eagles can fly fast. I mean, they've got the capability, but their hunting style is to soar up in the air, slowly going around and around until they spot something with their incredible eyesight, and then they slowly get lower and lower and lower until they do a final dive and a plunge. They very rarely do something called stooping. which is where a bird would tuck its wings in and just dive like a rock as quick as it can to catch something, which falcons are very, very well known for. They can do it, but they don't do it often. So certainly not as fast as the falcon. I think a peregrine falcon is the fastest bird in the world. I can't remember exactly how fast they move, but it's probably over 200 kilometers per hour. I think this bird wouldn't even go close to that, but certainly much faster than we can run, or probably even much faster than most cars could drive on these dirt roads. So probably a fair speed. Not that they need to, though. I would love to see it. I'll let you know if I see one flying very fast.
Well, that is what I call the real iconic African picture. The giraffe there has found another scratch log, and usually animals, when they find something to scratch with, an itch develops. And here you can tell he's not dancing. This is not a dance. This is an itch. And it might move from one area to the other. Yeah, so I don't know what area next it's gonna be. It's going to be very interesting. This is a male giraffe without looking anywhere else. The horns do tell me that. Usually they're very thick and flat on top. Well, I hope you're enjoying this because it is live right now from the Mara Triangle in Masai Mara. Yes, it's the view that you deserve for, watching this. All these zebra are part of the migrating ones, and there are so many, they're everywhere. And I'm so happy that I'll be able, or will be able to share these animals with you in the next coming days. We thought they were gone, but they are back. Remember, the annual migration only takes part for about 3 months, and then after 3 months they're off. But this year, due to unexplained reasons that are known to me, they have decided to come back. They're still here. It is October. October is the month they're supposed to be headed back. But they're here. I'm not complaining. I'm very happy that they're here. Yes, the itch has persisted and he's not leaving. He's still gonna continue scratching his neck. Maybe there was a tick there that he hasn't been able to get rid of it for quite a while, and so it is time to get rid of it. Are you gonna go back and scratch the same spot? Okay, trying to reposition. Okay, where are you scratching now? Yeah, these are rather very interesting because I don't know if it's actually scratching or trying to fight the tree. Looks like he's scratching, continuing to scratch, but it's rather very short and a very awkward position to scratch, so it's very difficult. I think if it was further up, we'd see more movement, but that is just like where the neck stops. Yeah, it's very, very funny. Yeah, it's always nice to see giraffes not only eating, but doing something else. We're used to them walking in the plains. We're used to them, underneath trees. We're used to them drinking, but you don't always come across a giraffe in need of scratching because it has found a convenient log to do that. That is a very beautiful side profile. You can actually see all the anatomy that tells you that it is a male. Yes, from the belly button, from the thick horns, from a protrusion in between the two horns in front. You can see it there. All those are signs that tell you it is a male. You can see the prehensile lips, that it uses to pluck leaves off bushes. Such a wonderful sight. It's amazing. These guys, are very endangered, but we have no shortage here in the Mara. We have a very good number, and they are doing very well thanks to the conservancy management, because they're doing very good job of protecting them. Yeah. The one we find here in the Mara is called the Maasai giraffe, named after the local beautiful people, the Maasai people, and who have coexisted with this wildlife for over the years. Is that Timmy, Jumbo? You want to find out if giraffes sleep standing up? Ginny, sorry. You want to know if giraffes, sleep standing up? No. Yes, that would be a very weird position to sleep in. They go down, and they're very vulnerable when they're down. They actually sometimes even fold their necks. So, yes, let me continue watching this, and let me take you to another beautiful sighting of wild dogs on the move.
Yeah, so we've just seen one of the wild dogs, but she's just moving around, and what's happened is they've just hunted, and she must have separated from the pack here. She's coming down the road. Okay. And so we've actually heard her calling, so she's out and about looking for the rest of the pack at the moment. Look how bloody that face is. Look at that face. So this is incredible. I mean, the luck that we're having at the moment, not being able to off-road and follow these animals, and we've seen wild dogs. And see, she's quite confused, so I'm actually not going to try and follow her too much. I mean, hopefully, listen. Oh, that noise is just amazing. And look at her belly. She's got that line of teats. And so this is the alpha female. And I wonder what happened. I mean, we were here around this area this morning, and there was lots and lots of vultures, and somebody actually saw a hyena taking and stealing a great duiker. So they must have made another kill, and I'm sure the rest of the pack must be somewhere around here. It's incredible. Let me move a little bit more forward. See how she puts her head down to the ground and calls into the ground.
They run, and they hunt, and they split up.
And there she goes. And so what she's just looking for and waiting for is the reply from the rest of the pack. And with them hunting, what would have happened is there would have been chaos. I'm sure they all would have scattered. They probably found something. And she might have just been lucky enough to catch something by herself. And I'm surprised that, I mean, there's another one running down the road. There's another wild dog. So that's two. That's awesome. Angie, that's a very good question. And I mean, that call could probably travel for at least, we would be able to hear it from a few hundred meters away. So these wild dogs with big ears would probably be able to hear it from a kilometer or two away, I'd imagine, maybe even further than that. And so that's 2. The rest is coming. I can see a couple more coming from down below us. Let me move forward one more time. What I'd love to see is the connection and them regrouping. There's 1, so that's 3. And if I think this is the same pack that we've been seeing regularly in the last month or 2, there might be pups that are around, and that would be so exciting to witness. She hasn't paid too much attention to the other adults. And so now so definitely 3 of them. This is incredible. Okay, there's 4 adults now. It's just, you almost don't know where to look with so much activity going on at the moment. This is the one that we originally found, and then here are 2 more. So these 2 are the ones that have just arrived, and they've also got bloody faces. Sure. It's unreal what we've been able to see today. She's just making herself lighter. And now they're continuing on. She has got such a big swollen belly. She must have been able to eat a really nice big portion. So maybe Rowan's going to follow the other 3 dogs that are moving up the road to the right of us. Let's just for a moment just see if we can keep that female in our sights. Just to see if the rest of the pack is around. Okay, so there's 2 of the other 2 that Rowan was following is actually coming in our direction. Looks like they might be following the alpha female. Here we go. Now they're coming onto the road. So apologies if there is 1 or 2 little dips in audio or visuals. We are in an area where sometimes the signal's a bit wonky. And see that they're concentrating a lot on the left-hand side. She's calling again. That noise is amazing. I had never heard it until I'd got to Ngala. Looks like they might have heard something. See, yeah, look at their behavior. They all quickly turn to the left and 1's up and running. Look at that one panting heavily, tongue out. And now they're all moving very quickly into the bushes. This could be the last time we see them if they carry on moving as quickly as they are going into this area. But you never know. Perhaps they might come back out onto the road again. And we've just lost that last one. I think that might be the last view we have of them. For now, at least. You never know. They could bring the rest of the pack if they hear them and come bring them up into this area. There's a nice big waterhole where we saw that male lion this morning. That's close by. And so whilst we wait for them to return, we'll just sit here and listen and maybe see if we can hear her calling again.
It's always nice when you watch wild dogs, and especially when they've already made a kill, or maybe when they're about to make a kill. Now, overlooking here, we have loads and loads of wildebeest. Look at that. As far as your eyes can see, we have a big number of wildebeest extending all the way down to the escarpment there. All those are wildebeest. The small little teeny tiny dots that you can see extending, those are wildebeest. I'm not sure how many now they are, but this seems like loads of wildebeest. I can say this, it's amounting more than about over 300,000. Super interesting. And 2 days ago the herds were not here because it rains on our side, so at least they can be attracted by rain. So reckon that they can smell rain up to 50 kilometers away and move around. So these herds, look at that, extending over in the plains. See those teeny tiny dots, those are wildebeest. It is an amazing view, I'm telling you. No wonder it's the world wonder, or the 9th wonder of the world. This is unbelievable. See tons and tons of wildebeest. They all seem quite relaxed, and I'm sure maybe a day or two we might have a big or a mega crossing at the Mara River, depending on the rain. If it rains further south where the sun is setting, maybe west where the sun is setting, we will get to see loads and loads moving towards that direction. Previously, about 2 or 3 days ago, they had all left, headed to Serengeti, and we had some people who were saying that they already had some sightings of them crossing over the Mara River in Serengeti, heading further south. But then again, they moved up to the Mara here. See, like I told you before, they don't have a leader, so each and everyone can move up and about. The herd splitting, moving into a big mass, splitting to small masses, and on, carry on and on and on. So it's also important to note that they've picked these plains because after the rains, see, it's almost green. You can see the green and the patches of brown. So those fresh shoots that pop up are the ones that really attracts them. And sometimes the authorities of both conservation area, the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, will burn the grass. So despite them burning, people might think that it's not good to burn, but it's called controlled burning. As you can see further down, there's some smoke there. We do what we call controlled burning, which is also so much helpful. And as you watch this wildebeest, we're going to send you over to another safari vehicle.
So we got reports of a male lion feeding on a giraffe. Now we're right on our boundary. We can't see it, unfortunately. As I said, it's outside of our boundary, so we can't get closer. I was hoping we'd get a bit of a view. But one thing that is quite an important indicator that a predator is near is this bird. This is a hooded vulture. So hooded vultures are not usually competing directly at the carcass. They are usually the ones that feed on the scraps left over, and often, interestingly enough, on the scat, the fresh scat from the predators. So you'll often find that these hooded vultures will be sitting right above where the lions actually are, and the rest of the vultures will be closer to where there's the actual carcass. So it's interesting. We can't see anything yet, but we're going to stick around in this area a little bit and just scan around, because we know that this male lion, as far as I understand, I think it's a male lion somewhere in this area. We're going to try and see if we can get a bit of a glimpse of it. But also I know that this particular vulture has got a very pink face, so that shows that it's gone through a little bit of excitement. Susan, it is a beautiful and a very unique bird. There's only one other bird that I can think of which shares some similarities in its behavior. So this bird here has got a very pink face, and they often do that when they're a little bit excited. So maybe this one has been at the carcass and feeding or been chased by other vultures. There's another bird called an African African harrier hawk, which I don't know if you've seen, and that bird has a yellow face until it's excited, at which time it then gets a pink face when it gets very excited, if it's found food or if it's feeding or mating. So it's very interesting. Both of them have this very specific sort of color that they get. You might see another vehicle pass in a moment, so we know that the sighting is nearby. There's other vehicles from the other property in the area, but moving off now. We still haven't gotten a glimpse, but you can see there's vultures all over the place here. Plenty of vultures. There's trees far and wide covered in vultures. So there's another, it looks like another hooded vulture over there, which doesn't actually help us because that means that lions could be there as well. So who knows where they are exactly. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a glimpse soon. Sooner rather than later. I wonder which male lion it is. You know, we haven't seen that male who had the limp for a long time. There was a sighting we had a couple months ago now, I think, of that limpy male lion surrounded by hyenas, and the hyenas were all going mental. So I wonder if that's sort of chased him off a bit. And he hasn't been back since, or at least we haven't seen him since. And as you can see with this environment the way it is, very, very well camouflaged. Sea cantrell, why are they called hooded vultures? That's a good question, and it's probably because of the fact that they've got that skin that's very exposed in their face, and then this sort of hood of feathers or furry feathers that comes over the back of its head like that. But I'll actually have to look that up because I'm not exactly sure. That's just my best guess of why it might be called a hooded vulture. I'll have to look it up. Lots of birds especially are often named directly to do with their features. So it'll be colors or shapes or certain things. So a hooded vulture would sort of suggest that it's got something to do with maybe that little hood of feathers that goes around the back of its head. Oh, this one is busy doing some grooming now. So see what it's doing? It's preening its feathers. So it's probably been at the carcass or at least on the ground somewhere, getting itself dirty and wet. And now it's busy pulling its feathers with its bill, helping to clean them of parasites, but also keep them nice and organized and neat and combed, so they're efficient flyers. It's efficient at catching the wind in the air. Right. Trying to see, there's more vultures flying off. I'm trying to see if they're indicating more to where the carcass actually is, but so far nothing. It would suggest that the lion must be at the carcass directly if the vultures are not all down on the ground and feeding, because it's apparently a giraffe. I don't know how it died. Oh, actually, I heard the story now. So there was no predator at this carcass, but the story is that we had a very big lightning storm, and people are suggesting that maybe this giraffe, it's on a bit of a crest here, this giraffe got struck by lightning. Now that would be a 1 in an absolute million chance if that's what happened. I'm not sure that I'm convinced, but the second giraffe that we've seen that's died in the area, and they're both males, according to what I hear. So maybe there's been a bit of, fighting between males in the area. I'm not sure. Interesting to find out, though. It is pretty crazy. So we're going to stick around in this area a little bit longer just to see if we can try and relocate this male for you. And if we don't get lucky, then we'll move on.
Now, our wildebeest are still on the move. They seem like they're on a mission. Kobe, maybe they're going to concentrate where the big herds are because they're actually further to the east. Look at the sky there. Super beautiful. I like the sun rays. I like the sepia color and the mixture of blue. And I like when the light shines on the beards of these white bearded canoe. Super, super beautiful. Some of them, I think, they're doing the evening run. How wonderful is this? Now, sometimes they keep on moving back and forth, back and forth. And just because of pasture. So these are bulk grazers, and whenever they move, they cut off grass with their hooves and with their teeth as they carry on looking for pasture. And that's the reason why the zebras have to follow them in this circle of the Great Migration. Actually, whatever animal that follow this great herds, lovely sound, yes, the gnu, gnu, super cool. So they take whatever animals that follow these herds take an advantage. So look at the Thompson gazelle, who sometimes also migrate. They get to eat the very short grass. So nothing is left, and each and every species takes an advantage. So there's what we call browsing line. So each and every species have their own browsing line. Just let's take a moment and listen to this wonderful sound of the Thank you so much for your question. That is what we call a rat. It's a communication when these wildebeest are moving, especially the bulls, which is a synchronized call. It's a male ratting call, especially when they're courting the females. That is the males that are producing that sound. R-U-T, the rat. It's so beautiful to watch this. So as we watch the sunset down and this wildebeest ratting call and them grazing and walking around this area, we'll take you over to another safari vehicle.
We've been lucky enough to find a few of the pack again. We've been sitting and listening for the last 10 minutes, however long you've been away from us, and we heard chaos in there. It sounded like a hyena came in. It just disrupted them from feeding, and so there was noises of hyenas and wild dogs fighting with one another. And whatever's happened, whether the hyenas taken the carcass away or if the wild dogs were successful in defending it, it seems like the majority of the meat is finished, because that wild dog there has moved away from the kill, and it almost looks like he's in the role of a sentry. So just getting a point of elevation where he can scan around a bit further just to see if there's no potential threats. And we've just been hearing some elephants trumpeting and making a lot of noise, also somewhere where the hyenas and wild dogs were fighting. So it sounds like these wild dogs now are getting chased by elephants now. And there's vultures. I mean, directly above that wild dog, there's a few white-backed vultures. So they're just waiting and playing the patience game. See there briefly, so that's at least two of the dogs are there. I won't get a view if I go backwards, but maybe if we creep forward. Let me try and move. I don't know if we'll see them from this angle. Ah, there we go. See them their own. Yeah, I mean, to see, I saw more of them, but very briefly. They're moving more north, and it's the youngsters. Looks like all of them are there. It would be amazing if They come and said hello to us on the road. So where that one is standing up and looking down to the right, and there's a small gap that I think I might only be able to see. And they seem to be moving back and forth there. Looks like they might be lying down, so they might not be wanting to move too close, but we'll wait probably until the sun goes down and hopefully they get a bit closer to us.
Now the sun is setting, it's giving that sepia color. And you can hear and listen to these routing calls from the wildebeest. You can see some birds flying over, going to their nesting places. So this activity is almost coming to an end. We have birds that are going to the restful places. We have these wildebeest that are almost gathering up to a place where they'll spend the night as they carry on eating. It's so peaceful and quiet here. Despite this wildebeest, it almost sounds like an orchestra, wildebeest orchestra, which I so love it. Look at the sun setting there. Over in the Olololo escarpment, down in Serengeti. Super magical and beautiful. I don't know where some of the zebras have gone to, but I think where these are heading. Wow, look. Super magical and beautiful. Look at the formation of the cloud there. Whoever made this a world wonder, whoever put it in that list, really looks like a painting actually. It's a natural painting. Remember, we're coming to you live, #WildEarth. On the YouTube comment section at FC. For the young viewers, questions at wildearth.tv. They're watching that hourglass. I'm still going to sit here and listen to the wildebeest orchestra as we send you over to another safari vehicle.
So here we go, we've got view of the puppies finally. They haven't moved any further away from the termite mound, but they're still all huddled together. And so this is the first view that we've had on them, and there's one with a very bloody back of the head, so he got his head stuck right into whatever they ate. And from where we heard the alpha female calling is no more than 100 meters away. And so they must have just been so preoccupied with feeding and eating as quickly as they could that they weren't responding to her calls. So they definitely would have heard her if they were paying attention. But they obviously had more adults around them and they were just feeding as quickly as they possibly could. It's so cool to see the youngsters because they always just are in one big dog pile. So Claire, this is the biggest one that I've seen, and I think in total there are 22 wild dogs in this pack, maybe a bit less, 21. And that's pretty much as big as they get. I've heard of numbers growing to over 30, between 30 and 35. But it's quite difficult because there's just so many mouths to feed that it's counterproductive having so many wild dogs together. And so a group like this, I mean, they'll need to hunt on a very regular basis. So it looks like they're up and they're moving, Let's see if the adults are deciding to move. They might be moving the puppies. Yeah, they're moving parallel to the road for now, but the junction isn't too far behind. We'll give it a few more minutes and then maybe go and just wait at the junction. Claire, but I mean, what I find remarkable is how the alpha female can give birth to so many youngsters. And I think the record ever recorded with one female giving birth was 21 pups for one female, which is remarkable. I mean, this is a big litter and it's about 10. And the dogs and the adults have to work basically non-stop to be able to provide for them. So they're hunting 2 or 3 times a day. And not only one impala, if they can, they'll kill 2 or 3 impalas. That's a funny looking wild dog. I'm gonna go stand by at the junction. Can you still see them?
What a beautiful scene here. It sounds like you guys are having a fantastic afternoon. Wild dogs on the move is something remarkable. The way they communicate, the way they move, the endurance absolutely mind shatters me. How those dogs keep the speed they do for the duration is absolutely mind-boggling. But what a beautiful setting we're having here in Tswalu. This tower just meandering through the bushes. There's quite a lot of males. There's 2 or 3 males within this group. There's a female too, I've seen. They're doing a late afternoon feed. They feed for a very large portion of the day, and they only snooze for a very, very, very small portion. Rico, how thick is a giraffe's skin? I've never ever read, I've never ever thought about that question. Another great question day. How fantastic. Noriko, maybe somebody can help us out there. I've really got no idea how thick a giraffe's skin is. Sure, 3rd question today. I like it. Noriko, I'm going to have to check that one up. I would really be lying to you if I told you a number. Maybe somebody can help us out there. Who can help us out there? Maybe some of the viewers can help us out. How thick is a giraffe's skin? It's got to be fairly tough, I think, and fairly thick. Because if you look at males and how they fight, you can see, when the male gives quite a strong blow on his opponent, the skin does look quite tough. And it's got to be tough to deal with male-male competition and moving through this thorny, spiny vegetation. So I would say pretty tough. Maybe about a centimetre and a half, 2 centimetres. Oh, no, that's very thick. Sure, stumped. I'd have to get back to you, Noriko. Very good question, thank you. Let me just get my pen. But yeah, a very interesting question. How thick is giraffe skin? Obviously, the skin is very important. We spoke about those, the windows or the spots on the giraffe, which would vary between individuals. But those... Oh, well, we got a comment there that Google says it's 2 centimeters thick. Obviously, Google can be varied on the information. It's not very trustworthy. Obviously, check your sites before you get into that type of stuff. But that skin is a very, very important bodily function for these animals and a way in which they disperse heat. So those patches are actually referred to as thermal windows, and how this animal will actually dissipate or lose heat through the hotter parts or from its body, how much heat it has been generating. I mean, a large animal like this is generating quite a bit of heat, unlike an elephant, which generates a large amount of metabolic heat. But these guys aren't worrying about heat, they're worrying about feeding. And look how nimble that one on the right is moving around those thorns. That's incredible. So they'll be nimbly selecting. I mean, they're very selective individuals. So selecting the fresh, juicy parts. Hassan, I've seen footage of giraffe chasing vehicles. I've never experienced it. So I've seen footage of them chasing vehicles. It could be multiple reasons why. But I wouldn't say they are aggressive as a species. They're by nature very placid, very easygoing animals. And curious. That has been my personal experience with giraffe, is that they are so curious. I've actually sat down in open fields, maybe about 1 kilometer away from giraffe. I heard about this and I actually tried it. Sat down and I saw a tower about 1 kilometer away from me, sat down on my bum. I looked down, I didn't pay attention to them. They were so curious that they walked out of the thicket line, came right up to me within about 10-15 meters, and just peering over me and looking at me. I actually got super nervous because I thought to myself, I've put myself in a position now. I'm on the ground, no trees, no cover, and this huge giraffe towering over me was a very scary thought, very scary sight. But curiosity, definitely, but aggressive, not from my experience. The younger one looks like a little bull. Beautiful animals. I mean, look at that. The walking stride of a giraffe is incredible. One which moves gracefully. And it is sure at that. So the pattern also aiding in camouflage. You can see how that broken pattern really allows it to blend in with this mix-match vegetation in front of it. And the only part you won't really find patches is behind the ears. Look behind the ear there. Snow white. Come on, move. Might be mom. So giraffe form very loose, broken herds. Temporary association, and you would have these small groups of similar age or similar sized individuals in a group.
Our patience has paid off. They're all coming closer to the vehicle. Just look how many wild dogs there are. It's unbelievable. And they're all looking pretty full-bellied. We're actually so lucky because we lost them again when we saw them moving just before you left us. And we were lucky enough just to spot one of them crossing through a gap in the bushes, and we sat and waited for a bit, and they've all come out into the open. And now the adults are lying down, so this might be the spot that they decide to rest, at least for a little bit now. It's open enough to see anything coming. It's so nice to be able to see them this clearly after seeing them through the bushes. And it seems like some of them still have got quite a lot of energy, so they're now just fighting and biting one another. The couple chasing each other around. Oh, that one's got a very distinctive black dot on the white bit of the tail there. See, that one wild dog at the background is facing away from the rest of the pack. So the adults would have almost formed like a circle around the puppies. Hasn't been long, but look at the green grass around them. And all these new shoots coming. It's so awesome to see. There's still some that are very energetic. A Fiona, these puppies aren't big enough to hunt themselves. So if anything, they'll be practicing hunting small things like maybe guinea fowls or spur fowls or franklins, something to that extent. But they're big enough now to follow the adults almost everywhere where the adults go. And so, they'll go on looking for something to hunt, and then if the adults need to move very quickly, you might find that they'll leave them behind with a carer, someone just to keep watch of them, and then the adults might return. So, I mean, I would imagine that if all goes according to plan from this age, they'll be joining the adults in the hunts more and more frequently. And I mean, for such youngsters, they're probably only in the region of about 6 months old, and they're capable of almost running the same distance and the same speed as the adults can. And so they're not confined to a den site like they were when they were first born. It is very relaxing. I think it must be very stressful to be an adult member of the pack, knowing that you have to look after all of these naughty little puppies, especially when they're like this, because they just will start chasing after almost anything. And they often will chase a vehicle. So if you're trying to drive away from them, these little puppies will run after you, and you just see the panic in the adults as they try and call the youngsters back again. It is very peaceful. I mean, it's just so cool to watch the playfulness and them interacting with one another. And it's one of the main reasons as to why I love wild dogs so much, is the interaction that they have and the bond they have between individuals. Okay, there's an adult that's up, and there's another adult actually that's facing in exactly the same direction. So they might have heard something. It seems like they're quite relaxed, and the adult's actually going to join in with the playfulness. Look how they all run there. Look at those tails. So they've actually just regurgitated, and now the whole pack's looking for food. There's one with a piece of meat, the one straight towards us. Yeah, that one. Just about to swallow it whole. So Cameron, they won't. They will eventually disperse. So there's one even on the log over there. So they'll eventually disperse, and most of the time it's actually the females that will tend to leave the pack. But there's been recent studies where there's not really a consistent amount of members in the same pack. It changes a lot more than we actually think. And so for the most part, I think that the females will leave when they, I think, are about a year old, maybe closer to 2 years old actually. And then, in theory, they'll go and find a new pack that's almost only got males and try and rejoin the pack and start their own family. So within the litter of females, there'll be a more dominant one. You'll more than likely be the alpha female of that new pack. And this is what a lot of this playfulness is all about, is just settling and trying to figure out who is the strongest and who's will get the right to carry and decide the direction and look after the rest of the pack. And that whole regurgitation process that we saw a minute ago is very common for when they're still in a den site. And so the adults go off and hunt, they catch something, and they literally just bite chunks off of an animal, and then they swallow it, run back to the den site, and then you see that often those wild dogs coming out of, or the puppies coming out of the den site, making those very high-pitched noises and just forcing the adults to regurgitate for the youngsters. So that one that's getting chased around has got something in its mouth. But the rest are desperate to get. It looks like it's a piece of bark. I'm sure the rest of them think that it's a piece of meat or maybe a bone or a flap of skin, but it's literally just a piece of bark that one has picked up. I love watching their tails and how that white just stands out, and when they get excited how they stick their tail up, and there's just so many things to watch when you're watching a pack of puppies like this. That log is the playground, or the chosen playground for the afternoon. Them being so many, there's two groups of 5 pups. So this is a group of 5 on the left, and there's another group on the right. It's now just split up, but this is definitely the pack that we've seen for not only the last couple of months, but we've been following them for the last 3 or 4 years actually. And the alpha female in her first batch, she only gave birth to 4 pups, and only 2 of them made it. Last year it was 9, and I think 7 made it, and we found them only, they've been on the property only for the last month and a half with the 10 youngsters. So we're not entirely sure how many they started off with, but it does seem like this female's, as she's getting older and more experienced, she's giving birth to more and more youngsters. And so when things like this are happening and there's action, we could sit here for hours. There's one dog now on the right-hand side of the log. There was one dog that was spinning around chasing its tail, and it managed to catch it. Barbara, there might be. I'll have to get back to you on that. I mean, it sounds like it's whimpering is the best way that I could describe it, but there might be a more technical name for it. So I'll see if I can figure out if there is the correct terminology for you. But there's these calls that we hear, and it's more with the puppies that you hear, and especially when they're youngsters and they're looking to regurgitate food or they were wanting the adults to regurgitate food for them. So they give that very high-pitched whimper around the mouth of the adult, which forces the regurgitation. Then they've got the sound that we heard, the contact call. And then they've got almost like an alarm call, which sounds more like a growl than anything else. So those are the three calls that I've heard wild dogs make. And so this, I'm hoping, is a place that they will settle down in, because this is the first area that we'll come back and look for them again tomorrow. It is starting to get dark, so I think we are going to start making our way away from them and let them rest for the night.
Well, it's that time of day when the day says goodbye to us and the night says hello. We are on infrared that allows us to see in the dark, and I've come across this beautiful small herd of elephants with this female that has got a beautiful long tusk. I don't know what happened to her left one, but that is one of the most impressive ones that we can find here in the Mara. It's a small herd, and they are busy feeding on the softer grass on this marshy spot that we've come to end our day. Here it's so dark, I cannot see this. I can actually see just the silhouette if I look with my eyes, but with the help of the infrared we can see that far. Look at how the eye glows. A little bit scary. Yeah, that's the sight that I have. Oh, here comes another one. This one you can tell it's much closer to us. Yeah, it's you can tell it's much closer to us. Yeah, how powerful, how amazing are these, these infrared lights. Yeah. I hope you can hear the frogs, all different types. And also you can hear the sound of the elephant ripping the grass. That's a lot of strength used by that trunk. Listen to that. Yeah, I hope you heard that. It's a lot of strength. It's a very powerful object, or tool for them to have. Without that, they are doomed, because it does a lot for for them, from ripping that grass off the ground to smelling to actually drinking to crossing the river. They use it as a snorkel. It also can be used as a weapon. I've seen them hit one another using it. That is a very beautiful sight. You rarely get to see elephants in the dark. And that's, that's a female. It's a part. That's quite cool. That was, yes, elephant releasing a little bit of flatulent. I don't know if you heard that. Yes, it's that time of day. It's quite dark. If it wasn't for this infrared, so we could see nothing. And where I am, actually, I cannot see them with my bare eyes. I have to tell Bungay to get back to them so you can see the difference, and how far they are. You can tell where the infrared is shining is the only part that we can see. The farthest one, we cannot see them. Okay, I'm gonna actually stick here for a little bit, listen to the beautiful sounds of the frogs. Let's find out what else we can show you.
We have no problem with light here at the moment. That sun is still a good 40-50 minutes before it hits the horizon. Just shows you how vast and how far one would have to travel to catch up with the sun. Something in between the mix of things here. Oh yes, and a viewer got back to us with some nice information. Yes, about 20 millimeters, which would be about 2 centimeters. A giraffe skin would roughly be. Thank you very much. Oh, where is he? So he's standing absolutely dead still. We actually saw him busy browsing. We thought, let's just see if we can get a little quick snap of him. But now he's doing what he does best, and that is freeze. Freeze motion is very important on how he will basically blend in with this bush, allow his disruptive markings to work to their best. And you can see just his ear moving just ever so slightly. That's incredible. Beautiful twist in the horn. Put this bull only about 4 or 5 years of age. They are incredible. We actually know where a set of horns are, so to carry on with horn structure and that extension of the skull, when we find them tomorrow or the next day, we'll take a look at them, and they're pretty impressive. I mean, you can understand an oryx's skull and the horn being straight, but that twist is remarkable. That twist continues, the bone continues within that keratin sheath. And I mean, they look like branches right now. That ear still just straight into this direction, listening to us. So independently moving, very nice advantage that he would have. Just to rotate them backwards and listen if there's any threat approaching from the side or behind. All the birds are starting to quieten down now. We've got Cape turtle dove, or ring-necked dove as they're now known as. White-browed sparrowweavers in the distance. And there's a really remarkable little reptile just starting to vocalize called a barking gecko. It's one of the only reptiles that actually can vocalize. And if we can get this sound to you guys, we definitely will try. Hello, Mr. Kudu. Good afternoon. Oh, he's going to start feeding. But what a remarkable day it's been, sure. From wild dogs to kudu, giraffe, great questions. It's been an absolutely amazing day. Oh, big ears. Yeah, so we couldn't have asked for a better day. Just from our side, from Tswalu and the rest of the team across the continent, the whole Wild Earth team, what an amazing day and what incredible opportunity we've had to spend with you guys. You make sure to visit us tomorrow, and we'll see you later. Have a great one. Cheers for now.
Is advised.
Good morning from a fairly dreary yet expectantly